Hello everyone, thank you for joining us tonight for another session of Isha Stories. So tonight we have three Hatha Yoga teachers trained at the Isha Yoga Center. It's a training program that is designed by Sadhguru. I'll begin with introduction to Srividya. Srividya was born and brought up in Chennai and she took up Isha practices at a fairly young age. She studied civil engineering and she lived briefly in Singapore where she worked as a civil servant with the Singapore government for 4 years. She then moved to the US where I think she lived for a while in Minnesota, and more recently she's moved to Atlanta, and we'll try to get her to share a little more as we go into the session. Madhubi is from Mumbai. She's a professional photographer and now also a Hatha Yoga teacher. She has her classes in Mumbai and they also have a few online classes. We'll get to her as well. Ashton is from Canada. He went to school at University of British Columbia. His interests are in kinetics, naturopathy and medicine. He has a pretty interesting story of how he got to know of Sadhguru and what made him take up this rigorous 6-month teacher training program at the Isha Yoga Center. Having said that, we'll jump right into the questions. We'll begin with Srividya first. Srividya, can you please tell us a little more about your journey to Isha and Sadhguru, how you ended up signing up for the Isha program? Was your family kind of already into Isha, or what's the story?
Thanks, Partha, and thank you everyone for joining this session. I'm excited to be here. So my journey with Isha Foundation started pretty early, like Partha mentioned. After my 12th class, I was at home waiting for college admissions, and my best friend's father said, you guys have 2 months, so you should just go for this yoga program. And at that time, Sadhguru was offering a 13-day program with Shakti Chalana Kriya and Shunya meditation, which has now become like an advanced program. So that was a basic program at that time. When I was 16, I didn't know what I was signing up for. I just wanted to go and have fun because my best friend was also signing up for this. So we went, and I remember the day I got initiated. I didn't know what initiation meant. I didn't know what, the significance of any of this. But I just distinctly remember coming out of the room knowing that something of significance had happened to me there. And that is a feeling that has stayed with me until now. And it's still one of the most powerful practices that I do 18 years later. So, and then, with college life, I moved to Singapore to do my undergraduation, staying with a roommate in a small dorm room. I couldn't actually keep up my practices, even though I should have, because you have been so supportive with the cross-cultural, the difficulties I had settling down and adapting to the new country and education system and all that. But what happened was, fortunately for me, at that time, Sadhguru introduced inner engineering program and Shambhavi Mahamudra Kriya, both, I think especially outside India, it was started at that time. So I ended up going to the program again because a cousin told me it's okay, there's another opportunity, it's a shorter practice, only 21 minutes, you should do this. And that was a game changer for me, doing Shambhavi at that point, because even as a 19-year-old in the new country without my family, there was a lot of stress with education, extracurricular activities, and my health was declining rapidly. I was already on medications for acidity and related complications. And I went for the inner engineering program. I did Shambhavi Mahamudra Kriya for 3 weeks, and I actually went off of medications. And since then, in the last 16 years, I haven't had a need to go back to medications. That's how powerful just 3 weeks of practice was. And that kind of began my journey, because after that I started volunteering, and that grew deeper and deeper within me. I started seeing life outside of the rat race, especially when you're a college grad. Everybody in your immediate circle is trying to scale the ladder and getting fancy internships and going places. But being a volunteer and being with the spiritual sadhana Sadhguru gave helped me ask the questions, what is it that I want, regardless of what society is trying to define for me as success, or what should be the next step, or degree, job, marriage, house, baby. So but is that what I want? Is that relevant for me? Is that right for me? So there is no right or wrong, universally, but this it gave me the clarity to ask, is that suitable for me? Is that what I want out of my life? And that has been the most powerful thing for me since then. Every step of the way, he says rat race is for rats and not for humans. And that has been a reality for me with my Isha journey. So to cut the long story short, I worked for a few years initially, and then when Sadhguru started the Isha Hatha Yoga School in 2012, I knew that that's what I wanted to do for a living, because it was the most significant thing I had known personally that had transformed me, and I wanted to be able to offer it to other people while also making a living out of it. So I signed up for the second batch in 2013, and 21 weeks of intense program later, I have been teaching until, of course, just before the pandemic. I used to travel at least 2 times a month to different cities in the US. I've also taught in the Caribbean islands. So I teach both for the foundation, and I also teach independently on my own as a business. So that's been my life for the last decade, mostly volunteering, and of course after that teaching classes. And
Wow.
Here I am.
That's amazing. Thank you, Srividya. Madhubi, would you like to just give us a little idea about your story as well?
Namaskaram, everyone. Thanks for being here with us on this journey. So, for me, it started my first interaction with Isha and Sadhguru started in November 2016. And one of my dear friends said that, he had extra pass for Mystique Eye. Not extra, actually it was his pass and he couldn't go. So he said, would you like to? And I just took this opportunity. I didn't know what I was signing up for. I said, okay, why not? So actually, to go a little back, when I was 8 years old, I had some, I can call it a little mysterious and spiritual experience. And one question that came out of that whole experience was, who am I? That was pretty loud and clear, and that left me wanting to know what this whole thing is all about. I was very young, and I was very curious to find out, like, why did this given question come to me? So it took me to different teachers and different kinds of yoga, different books, different practices, different experiences, and it went along for a very long time. I weaved in and out of what was the worldly thing, college and other things that were happening alongside. But it was in 2016 that, when I had done so many other things and it worked for me, not that it didn't, it worked for me beautifully, as in when, whichever state I was at that time. But when this happened to me, when I took the pass, I went for this Mystique Eye program happening in Mumbai. I sat there, and the first instant that I saw Sadhguru coming on stage, and I knew this is the end of my story. Like, my search, my longing, my seeking. He had done nothing. He just came, he just walked onto the stage, and something happened within me where I knew this is it. And since then, I guess things have been very crazy. Like, they've been happening back to back with, in terms of my journey with Isha. But also at that time when I joined, so Mystique Eye happened. The next month I did my inner engineering, my Shambhavi Mahamudra, and it was a profound experience. As I was doing my inner engineering, like the 7 days, exactly those 7 days, my outside world was crumbling. Things I thought were mine were, drastically, things were just like, in a very brutal way, were taken away, and everything was falling apart outside. It was crazy to see, this whole thing happening outside, but inside I was feeling there was some very different sense of peace and calmness. And the more it happened outside, the more calmer I was, and I could hold on to myself. And because I saw people around me who were going through some crazy situation, it goes spirally down, right? You go into I saw people, looking for so many other solutions to keep themselves up. But for me, this tool I found, and it was so profound, so big, so huge in a way that, it just, after that, inner engineering, I went for many other programs, went to Kailash Yatra, did my 21 days Hatha Yoga Teachers Training happened. So, again, I was in this Kailash trip and I met a Hatha Yoga teacher, and just seeing the overall fitness, the overall, the whole persona that was, because Kailash trip is little different in terms of how you are fit, you will be able to enjoy it more at that high altitude, all these things were there. And I saw these like simple practices. If that does this to your system, these simple tools, I was pretty intrigued, and I thought after I came back from Kailash, I took up Surya Kriya, and that blew me away. Like, wow, this one practice is so powerful. Probably I don't need to learn anything else now. But I was wrong, and just the things, like more and more practices I kept learning, and with each practice it was a very, very deep and profound experience, and working on different dimensions within. And I just, after I finished that, I saw myself signing up for teachers training, because yes, my friend was pushing me, and I was little resistant towards going for the training, because I was a photographer, I was doing pretty well, and I didn't want to break that, take a 6 months gap and just lose my client base of photography. So I was a little resistant, and but I also knew, if Sadhguru has gotten me so far in like 1.5 years from mystic eye to here I am standing, I think I don't have any take in that. I just need to follow what is there, and what is opening up for me, and I took up that opportunity.
That's
And
pretty interesting. Like you said, quite a lot of things happened at a in a way a short span of time, and from being a photographer and hearing also Srividya go from being a student and working with the Singapore government, and then all the way taking up this path of life to offer something to people. It's just fantastic to even listen to. We will talk more about that. I'd request Ashton to now just take us through briefly about his journey into Isha and becoming a Hatha Yoga teacher.
Thanks, Partha. Yeah, no, I love hearing stories even like Srividya's, where at 16, you get an opportunity to be involved into this ecosystem. I always look at that as pretty blessed childhood. Some people have to have things taken away from them to realize how important they are, and I always think that's really cool to, as a child, if you can be shown this path early on, I think that's perfect. I've just been scrolling through some of these photos you guys have, and a lot of intensity, a lot of, some people have Kailash and the Analinga sketch and stuff, so it's cool to see all you people with all your artwork. And yeah, so my name's Ash. I'm from Canada, and if there's any parents who have any kids in college, you might want to not let them listen to this part of the story. But no, my journey came, I was in university, doing everything in life that I was told to do. University was nice. I was enjoying it. But there were questions that weren't answered. I was interested in taking up medicine or naturopathic medicine. But I noticed that even in some of my classes, studying diseases, that one of the main causes of the diseases was stress. And here I was in a classroom of hundreds of people stressing out over learning about all these diseases. So I felt that there were certain methods to learning that were being missed. Some of the teachers were amazing, don't get me wrong. Some of them really inspired my journey, and I have them to thank for this. Others I felt were only in front of me because they could, because they read the book before I got into the class. It felt like that. So leaving with that kind of feeling, I was always looking for answers. I was always interested in optimizing the human body, the human mind. That's why I was studying what I was studying. And a teacher of mine showed me, I was working at a naturopathic as like an intern, and she showed me this one book that wasn't even called meditation. It was called relaxation. And I was going through my own trials, headaches and my own anxieties and my own concerns with the world and my place in it, because as one person, you feel, how much can you really do? There's so much that I felt needed to be done in terms of helping people and environment, and if my own self isn't full, what can I really do in that behalf? So this book blew me away. It was the first time I ever felt like, wow, there is something more to this life, and that sent me on a journey that I actually, that year, I decided not to go back to university. I wanted to explore life in a different way, and I was traveling around, visiting friends, having a lot of fun, visiting people. I felt like that was it. I was in those moments of clarity. I felt like we're around each other for only such a limited time, that spending time with everyone is important. And I realized after some time that isn't even enough. There's something more calling. And after another experience with life, one afternoon I was wondering about what to do next, and as you step out from university, you step out from the path that you're told that you should walk, it becomes a little bit more quiet on the path. And just in one instance, I was on the computer and an ad came on and it said, everyone knows about the eye, but everyone knows about the iPhone, but no one knows about the eye. And I was like, go on, bearded man. and that bearded man was Sadhguru, and I watched his videos for hours, and I thought, wow, there's going to be something, though, that he says that I don't agree with, that I don't like, that I don't want to hear, and that's going to turn me off. And it never happened. And I feel like in that moment, that was when I was initiated. I think like he initiated me over YouTube, and now they're showing that's even possible with being able to teach classes online. And I think it really happened for me then. That was just it. And it really transformed. That happened to me when I was like 22, and I was in northern Canada, so there wasn't any classes happening around. I think that was the year that Hatha Yoga School started. So they were just in their first year of training, and there was no teachers around. And inner engineering was only happening 30,000 kilometers away, and or 4,000 kilometers away in Toronto. And I never thought it would be possible for me, but I was just addicted to hearing more from what he had to say and incorporating his teachings and learning from people in this path. I had never heard the word guru before. I had never understood it. I was growing up, I grew up in Christian faith, but there was something about it that felt like you say one thing and you do another, and I was a rebellious kid in that way. If you looked at me and you told me to do something and you weren't living that truly in your life, I was not going to listen to you. So I'm not sure many people might be able to relate to that. And yeah, so I spent the next years wanting to, travel and take up the classes, but they weren't around. So one year I just decided, 9 months into it, I was it was 9 months away, was this consecration, this Adiyogi consecration. I had no idea what any of this was, and I decided to pack up everything in my car that I owned and just travel down and take inner engineering in Tennessee in that ashram there. And I was lucky enough to spend a few months there. I have no idea how they kept me around, but we were a good worker, so they they were super amazing, super gracious. These powerful spaces transform, and then I became interested more, and again, doing well in the work that I was doing, and it still didn't feel like enough. And I had volunteered for a program, Bhava Spandana program, and that was a beautiful intensity that opened me up to the fact that I want to open up my life and offer this. So 6 years after.
What interests me in your story is, how you went into a course that, where you learned about naturopathy. Is that what it is?
Yes.
Yeah, and body kinetics, if I got it right. And then you quit that, and then came to a place to learn Hatha Yoga, which also deals with, in a sense, kinetics of the body and how the body is structured. Can you just briefly tell us how different was it?
The training versus what I was learning in university versus what the Hatha Yoga School. Oh, very nice. So the Hatha Yoga School, what I felt what was missing in university is that it wasn't like a holistic approach, right? It was fully based on the mind. They weren't really concerned with the well-being of the student. In a way they are. I mean, there's counselors, there's this, there's that, but there's no real tools that they give you to manage yourself, right? They say you study it, that's it. You balance work, if you're working in university, you balance travel to get there, you balance, affording food for yourself, all these things. I mean, I moved out, I lived on my own, so these are concerns, right? And basic needs and stuff like that students should take care of, but it didn't give you the tools. It felt that the sustained feeling that you can, that you're right within. Like, it was so outwardly based on the mind and what the mind acquires in terms of studying that, yeah, it felt like something was missing, and they weren't addressing the fact that there was all these stressful students going around campus. Of course there's things to do, but there was no real tools that were being offered. And I don't fault them. I mean, university is very mind oriented. So the difference with the university, the Hatha Yoga School, is that from day one, I mean, because you're going there already having learned some practices, so the impact. But from day one, they're concerned about like your well-being first. They're like, we'll get to the material we'll get to these things, but you take care of, you get settled, you do your practices, go, upgrade you in a way, and then it happens. And yes, of course, there's a lot of it takes a lot of it was actually tougher. It was to be honest, the amount of stuff that you have to learn in 6 months. It's 1,750 hours, which I think is like a master's degree, but in 6 months.
Yeah, Ashton,
So
that's something I'm sorry, I would like to know more about. Like, it's very interesting and inspiring to know how Srividya, Madhavi, and you all were drawn to Sadhguru and how you got into Hatha Yoga and things like that. But along with that, I'm sure there are challenges that you had to face, starting with the fee structure, let's say, of the whole program and the discipline that you need to follow and the whole structure of the program altogether. So how did you guys prepare yourself for that? Like, how challenging was the whole program? So for me, Pooja, the difficulty was more societal, I would say, because by then I was married, and if you've been in a traditional environment in India, like I come from a conservative background, where they think, okay, if you're married, then you need to give them some good news within double quotes in the next 1 year, and that's the path you're supposed to take. So for me to say I'm going to leave my husband behind, I'm going to leave my family behind, and it's okay, he's an adult, he can manage, I need to go for 6 months across because when I was living in the US, I need to go back to India for 6 months. So that was a bit of a scandal in the families. Like, what? We would rather you do a master's and start earning. So I think for me that was difficult. And I'm sure many others may also face this, whether you're married or not, your families may have difficulties accepting certain decisions. And it's always, of course, there needs to be a balance about how much you take that into consideration, how much you follow your passion. It's a very individual situation. But for me, I just felt like this was so strong, the need was so strong, like I almost felt like I didn't have a choice about this. And it was just so firm. There are very few things in life that we feel so firmly about that we almost feel like choiceless in that decision, like this is it. And that is something I felt when I looked at the information about the training program. And the 6 months when I went, one thing I prepared my mindset for was that these 6 months I'm never going to get again. Because when you sign up for something that long, you think, oh, 21 weeks is a lot of time. How am I going to get through it? But somehow I also had the clarity to see 6 years later, when you look back and see, it's been for me, 7, 8 years since I finished the training. Even then, I knew when you look back, this is a very small time investment that you make. Of course, a power packed, but then 6 months is not a lot. Even a PhD program people do for 5 years. So really 6 months is not a lot for the kind of content, for the kind of transformation you are looking to make, happen for yourself. How much you need to root yourself deeply in this before you are allowed to go teach this to another person. 21 weeks is not a lot. So, but I was clear about that I'm never going to get these 6 months again where everything is taken care of. Your food is taken care of, your accommodation is taken care of, they give you the materials, there are dedicated volunteers who are there just to ensure the environment is set for you to learn. And beyond all of this, Sadhguru has consecrated the Adi Yogi Alayam, which is where the training happens, and he consecrated that space with the intention of transmitting Hatha Yoga, or transmitting yoga in its life form. So that such a powerful support structure is there. So everything is set for you. All that is needed from your side is a certain decision, a certain clarity that this is what you want, and a commitment that no matter what your body says, no matter what your mind says, you will make this happen for yourself. You will give you 100%, and knowing that this kind of a time is not going to come back again. Once you finish the training, once you go back to society, there are so many other things that come up. You have to earn, you need a place to stay, you need to take care of your family. There are so many things which you have to do, obviously. So the preciousness of those 6 months I was very aware of. So I went into it knowing that no matter what happens, I will give my best. And that's what I did, and every step of the way, support came through for me. Like every difficulty I faced, if it was my body that was tired, if my mind that was saying, oh, I miss my family, I miss my husband, I miss, the comfort of my bed, that your mind does all this chatter, monkey mind. But each step of the way, when I decided to give or take one step, I felt like I was drawn forward by a different kind of force by another 9 steps. and I can say that's how I went through the training.
Actually, as you were saying that you felt like you had no choice to take this up, I wanted to bring up, like, are there any qualifications that people need to know about before taking up this training? Are there any prerequisites? Do you need to do you need to go through any particular program before you take this up, or any such prerequisites for this training?
So the prerequisites now that I'm aware of is that you need to have completed the inner engineering program together with the Shambhavi Mahamudra Kriya practice. These could be offered either together, or it could be separate, like an online program plus a completion program with the Shambhavi Kriya, but that is mandatory. And you need to learn one Hatha Yoga practice. Why this is important is because to first of all understand the intention, why Sadhguru is offering this, and what commitment it takes for you to be a part of this. I think it's important to take these programs and also prepare your body, your mind, your energy system, because the 6 months are very, very intense in terms of, we can probably delve into it a little deeper later in terms of the structure and what is required during the program, what your daily schedule is like. We can even talk about that. But, just to prepare yourself to go through it, if you simply land up there without going through the needed sadhana or preparation, it would be unnecessarily more challenging. So just these two are required. And once you take up a classical Hatha Yoga practice offered by, Isha teachers, you will see what it takes to be a teacher, what level of commitment, or personal discipline, and how the class, the sanctity with which everything in the class is set up, the smallest attention paid to details. So you will get to know these, and you will know that, whether this is for you, or at least what level of commitment it takes if you think this is for you.
I'd like to ask Ashton, like as he mentioned, he was going through a video. He came across a video of Sadhguru and he thought who this bearded man was. So I suppose when you took the training, it was your first time coming to India, I believe. So how was that for you? How challenging was that for you to leave university and then move to India for this training and things like that, and managing the fees and moving to a new country? How challenging was that for you?
It was just like a natural progression. Like again, like Srividya said, like you don't really put, like, of course you have to consider so much, right? 6 months of your life, but it comes to a point where other things quiet down, and it's like this is just something that's like pulsating within you, so you can't really doubt it. I actually had come in 2017 before for the consecration of the Yogeshwar Linga with Sadhguru, and they had the Yogi unveiling, and that was my first time in India. And I have to say, Sadhguru is a huge ambassador for India to the world. I never thought of coming to India, to be honest. There's a lot of unfortunate propaganda that's being shown about India that makes it not look like the honestly great place. And I mean, even in the last 10 years, it's really starting to, become a world power. It's noticed she's coming back to her beauty. I'm a fan of India now. I'm a big fan. Oh, Pavan, you're speaking?
No, go ahead, Ashton. I was just going to add on. Also, although Srividya said that, there are always social things that come in the way in order for someone to go for a program like this or get into the path of yoga. Usually, the notion is leaving everything behind and leaving social responsibilities behind and going back to something that that will set them aloof. But at the same time, we have you and Madhubi who are now married happily, although being Hatha Yoga teachers together. So how did that fit in? How's your life right now?
Madhubi.
Okay, yeah, it's letting me talk about this. Now you know how it is. Yeah. We got married in 2019 December in Devi's Grace in Ashram. It was a lovely marriage. The way it is done, Bhutisha Divya is wonderful. It's very powerful. It's beautiful. And if people have any abstract ideas that Hatha Yoga couple, is just like it's the perfect marriage. It is just like any other marriage. We do fight. We disagree to many things, but we work as a team in many ways. Like when we go out and we travel, we both of us, when we land into one place, we look for place to do sadhana for 2 people, this is one thing like always happens. Like, okay, most important thing in our life is where will we do our sadhana. Or for example, we don't eat onion garlic, so we are as a team, wherever we go, we're like, okay, we both of us, not, it's just not one person, 2 of us, so we are partners in crime in everything we do. Suddenly people find us missing, and both of us are doing shunya in the car in the middle of the engagement ceremony happening for someone else in our family, and we're just missing. So yes, it's fun to hang out. It's like with another hatha yogi, because we know what importance. Otherwise it's difficult for people to understand, like, why sadhana, why so much priority to these things, and why shunya, like so many things, like general aspects of day-to-day life as well. But I guess when you're with a partner who has been through this journey, who knows what it is to be in this living a life, conscious life like this, yes, it is definitely it's different, it's wonderful. Ashton, would you like to say something?
That's everything. No, it is something, someone that understands when you say like a word like, oh, I need to do my shunya now, or it's nice to have some weight, some understanding. That's something to keep in mind. I've known people that have gone into this. There is the thing about it, and Sadhguru's mentioned it, even if someone isn't in your life supportive of it, you can still turn that into a sadhana for yourself. You can still make yourself beautiful regardless of what that person thinks about your sadhana. But yeah, for our sake, we're pretty lucky. We're really lucky in that way.
And that's really fantastic to hear.
I'd just like to add something to that, Pawan. It's wonderful, Madhubi and Ashton, the way it turned out for the 2 of you. You have each other to understand the journey. Being Hatha Yoga teachers, it's such a support together. But for my situation, where I'm not married to a Hatha Yogi, also, someone who has done the programs but is not a teacher, I just wanted to add that doing sadhana, from my experience, actually makes me a more livable person with, in the sense,
I think Madhubi and Ashton can vouch that for each other.
Yeah. Have you done your sadhana yet?
Yeah, there comes a point where, regardless of what's happening in the day, you just start seeing it's all about you, it's just how you maintain your equanimity within. You just start being aware of so many things happening within you. But even for anyone else who's considering this path, it's not necessary you have to go finding someone who's a Hatha Yoga teacher to understand you as a partner. Just like Sadhguru always says, it's about you, working on oneself, and people will notice it for sure. Even the way I'm able to handle many situations with sadhana, with the strength of sadhana, I always find things are more effortless. So it's really about investing in, I would say, one's own self and one's own sadhana.
Right, talking about that, Akka. So, would you know if Hatha Yoga practices and asanas bring any kind of health benefits? Like, what would you say about that? Do you know of any instances of people getting rid of health issues or regaining health who have been practicing these?
So, I would like to share something that recently happened. So we had one participant, and he did a private online session with us. And when he joined, when he called me, he was like, okay, I'm in a very bad state. I have like tuberculosis, TB, which is like, which was like 40% water he had in his lungs when he was detected with this. And he took some treatment for a month. Yes, the water, everything, they did what they had to do. He was under medication, but he said, please help me, I want to breathe freely. And because it is lockdown and I could only offer him online sessions, we started with few practices. And I think by the end of the 10th day, he told me, Madhvi, I'm able to breathe like I have never felt before. I've never experienced this. These are the simple basic practices that we, what we can teach online, we were teaching, but practicing it regularly for, in a committed way. I mean, he said he could breathe because he also had smoking issues, obviously, which he had to stop because of this TB thing that was diagnosed. But this, I could see it on his face. He was feeling so much lighter just just a simple thing like a breath, just so precious, and we take it for granted. And when you're not able to do, you know what it is. And once he was able to breathe freely, something as serious as this TB, it was amazing to see the transformation within 10 days. So yes, these practices are very powerful, when we see this happening even online, not in person. In person, yes, we have seen many miracles happening with powerful practices, but yeah, this was
This
my
could be like a whole another 2 hours, even probably from just us three sharing stories, to be honest.
I'd like to mention something at this point. For those of you who may have looked into taking Isha Hatha Yoga practices before, yes, there is Surya Kriya, there's Angamatra, Yogasanas, each with different levels of intensity and different practice lengths. But another thing that even many people who have done these practices may not be aware of is that Sadhguru has equipped teachers, the school has also equipped teachers to offer modules, treatment modules. So when we say treatment modules, this is not about curing someone, that's not how it goes. But if they're on a certain, supporting a certain, process, certain journey, of course, they work with their doctors and, they take their medicines, and none of that should be like disrupted. While all that, if there are certain practices in a certain combination that they can do, which will be supportive on their journey, and teachers are able to offer these also.
That's really interesting to know, Srividya. I'm pretty sure at this point I see a lot of hands raised. We have James already on the who has come up, but for those of you who might want to join in to this conversation and have anything to share or ask the three of the Hatha Yoga teachers that we have, you can raise your hand and we can allow you to come up right now. And slowly we'll naturally transition into taking your questions as well in the next few minutes. So yes, we can continue. I see quite a few hands. I'll just invite you up to speak. So one of the questions that I generally have is, there are so many schools of yoga. There are so many hundreds and thousands of ways of learning yoga, right? What difference does Sadhguru's method make, and how did you choose Sadhguru's Isha school of Hatha Yoga of all the places that's available? Is there a specific thing that we should, you guys acknowledged and we should all know?
So for me, it was straightforward because I wasn't looking for yoga. This is the first thing I happened to stumble upon. But because it was so life transforming for me, I've never had a need to look outside. It's worked. It's been very complete. Anything I've faced, either in terms of body, mind, or in terms of just dealing with outside situations, the tools Sadhguru has given me have worked wonderfully. So I've stuck to them, and it was a natural next step for me when I wanted to be a teacher. It was only going to be with Isha Hatha School of Yoga. I'll let the others share also. But just one more thing is that after finishing the training, of course, I've worked with, I've researched, I've looked into different trainings to see what all they offered, just sort of curiosity. But I still felt like this was the best thing for me and best thing I could be offering to people because of simply the sanctity, the commitment in the class, even the attention to details that has been paid, the intensity of the training, the requirement that we have to commit 6 months and establish ourselves in a certain way, the rigor of it, all of this, and the way the instructions, the classes happen. There is no fluff. There is no presentation around it in a certain way. It is very sticking to the practice, the instruction, just about that. So that is something that I truly appreciate now that I've started teaching outside.
Ashton, Madhavi, would you like to add on?
Yeah, I would like to say that, I had tried different yogas before I came to this. I had been practicing yoga, and I can feel what a different thing it is. Just the way it is taught is so different in terms of no props, no mirrors, eyes closed. These simple things can make such a huge difference to the way you're able to go inward very effortlessly. And this thing I noticed with Isha Hatha Yoga was, yes, it is called classical Hatha Yoga for a reason, because it comes, from thousands of years back. It's unadulterated. It comes in its purest form because no one has messed with it in between. And that's the reason you can still feel how vibrant it is. In terms of not only how conducive the environment is created and all these external things that I just mentioned, no props, no mirrors, but also the way the practices are designed, the tools are designed. There is a scientific approach to it. It's ancient science, and that's, I think that's what makes it so different from other things, because you see so many different kinds of yoga today, and because I have tried a couple of them, and I just can know the difference, that oh my god, what was I doing all these years? And when I did this, just simple something like Surya Kriya, it just blew me away. So yes, there is a lot of science that goes into this, I guess.
But I was going to ask you exactly about that. From the way you and Srividya have described it, it seems like an extremely structured, scientific kind of methodology to approach this. But yet, I remember watching, a few of the videos about the training program, and they're so moving. So how is it that, such a scientifically approached process seems to be like having such a great impact both on the trainees and the people who are kind of learning from you?
Yeah, and I've noticed that about the Hatha Yoga teachers, not just the three of you, but there are quite a few of them also listening in, who I also know. There is a certain, you guys look sorted. I think the training just transforms you completely in a way that this. It almost seems to me personally that you guys are perfectly aligned in a certain way.
There's levels to this. There's levels to love, and
Yeah.
I think anybody knows. Once once you feel like you've sorted out another thing just opens up for you to now figure out. So yeah, maybe handling some day-to-day activities seems easier, but for me, the journey has definitely gotten more beautiful, but definitely not more easy in a way. I would say from my own journey, more things come up for you to deal with. Yes, maybe it has really given me that strength. If you can do something like that, commit to something like that, yes, there is a feeling like, wow, like so much is possible, and the practices themselves require so much alignment that whatever your mind is doing, whatever you think about yourself, whatever you think about someone else, you have to be in that posture. You have to align it in a certain way. So yeah, I would say it has helped sort my life out. If I look from this journey, the last 8 years, 9 years, what I was and what I am now is definitely two different people in a way. But yeah, I would say it's not. No one is perfect. From my own journey, I would say yes, I teach and I do well, but there's always so much to learn. So it's not that we're perfected in any way.
So to answer your question, Tata, I was just, reflecting on almost like reliving that experience to see what it was that made it so intense. Why are the videos so moving? And I can, for myself and many others around me, when we started the program, you come with all this muck that you carry, the inflexibility in the body, the mind with all its chatter, but the training from day one, you start doing like 6.5 to 7 hours of Hatha Yoga alone every day. And that's through the 21 weeks. We're not talking about Saturday, Sunday break and, oh, we've got time to chill. It's not like that, because once you enter the ashram space, I think many of you would know that this idea of TGIF and like having this mental calculation of 5-day work week, 2-day weekend, which the rest of the world seems to operate on, that drops, because every day, you wake up your life. You need to work on yourself. You need to do sadhana. That's all it is. So that structure, that discipline, and because you work on the body, and all of us have seen as trainees when we started how our body was, and when we finished the 21 weeks, maybe not everybody is already twisting like a pretzel, because the body takes years and it's so individual, the journey. But from where the person started to 6 months or 21 weeks later, there is going to be a tremendous and significant improvement in how you handle the body, how you sit, and you just needed the body. And the body and mind are so intricately connected that this is the surest way to work with the mind, is that you start working on stabilizing the body first, transforming the body first, and that the more flexible the body becomes, it translates into your mind also, and how you approach things, how settled you are. So what you see in the video is just that. After like so many, probably halfway through the training, they've shot it, and at the end they have shot the people trainees sharing, and it's phenomenal. Like just what is possible when you dedicate your life truly, and there is a supportive structure. What's possible? It's unbelievable, and I think that's what you're feeling through the videos.
Yeah, like Srividya said, it is a huge possibility to change, to transform, but only if you're open. But once you're open, I think it breaks you on all possible levels, mentally, physically, emotionally. It just breaks you, and I think only once you're in that stage, are you able to receive something. Once you're that empty, that's how I felt it happened for me. And doing sadhana, like she said, for 7 to 8 hours is, you're doing it every day, but every sadhana is different, every day is different. There is no way that you will go back and you'll go and come back as the same person. You see people unfold like in front of you, their journey. You yourself, you see the transformation. So yes, it's very intense. What you see is actually true. There are moments where you just don't know. Yes, there is science, and science can be this as well. It can be intense in all possible ways.
Yeah, I'd like to ask.
Sorry, go ahead, Pooja. We'll let Pooja ask a question and move to Q.
Sure. Yes, that made me think that while talking about Hatha Yoga, see, Sadhguru always talks about precision, right? Like Hatha Yoga is all about precision and geometry. So after practicing and teaching Hatha Yoga for a while, do you all feel that this precision has seeped into all aspects of your life, and how has it changed or improved your life in your experience?
That's a deep question. Well,
Like considering today's generation also, because see, everybody today they are very ambitious. They want to live life in its full majesty, and not give up on anything. Also, youngsters today are dealing with a lot of anxiety issues, depression. So considering that, see, Hatha Yoga would you say it's just spiritual, or is it also something which is changing completely the science of how you handle your body and mind and things like that?
I wish I had the opportunity to learn this earlier. From a guy who grew up playing with friends, playing video games, doing things that guys do, and traveling and going to music festivals and all this stuff. I would say if you're anyone, you don't have to believe anything. You just it's that's what's so beautiful about it, and it's been described to me like that. If you want to even look at it like basic, if you don't want to add a spiritual element to it, it naturally comes, I think. But if you don't have to know the name of a hammer to use it. It works whether you're in India, whether you're a Hindu, whether you're a Muslim, whether you're a Christian. It just works if you do it, and naturally the other aspects kind of form into it. So yeah, a student who challenges everyone, who doesn't listen to anybody, you keep this with you. That'll help you also. It's just like that. It's a tool simply.
And these practices are also about enhancing your capabilities in every aspect of life. And that's why Sadhguru is offering it to, in cities, to anyone, any background, whatever you wish to do in life. This can be something that equips you to do that better. It doesn't take away your involvement at all. In fact, on the contrary, it just makes your involvement so much better, because when you're in control of this vehicle with which you're driving through your body and mind, of anything that you take up, you're going to do it to a greater degree of, I don't want to call it perfection, but involvement. You naturally learn to give your best to everything else that you're doing. So it just becomes an obvious outcome or a consequence of you doing these practices, including.
Oh, you're muted there, but yeah, agree with everything she said.
That's beautiful.
Okay, shall we get started with Q&A? Rishi, if you can unmute yourself and ask your question, please.
Thank you.
Namaskaram.
Namaskaram.
Savik, we'll come to you after Rishi.
Okay,
Rishi,
okay.
can you...
Sorry.
No worries, no worries. Rishi, could you please speak up a little? We can barely hear you.
Sure. Is it better?
Yeah, better.
Okay. So I'll be starting my teacher training on 23rd. I am already at the ashram right now, so it's very nice to be a part of a conversation which is going on. Srividya, what you just mentioned regarding the monkey mind, and if you just take one step, then you get pushed for the next 9 steps. So this was something that just an hour or 2 hours back I was pondering over, because I've been here for last 4 or 5 days and I've been observing myself that I've been going more leniently with myself, or slacking around, not showing that focus which might be required for teacher training. So as someone who's just about to go for teacher training, how would you suggest that what type of a momentum you should gather in the beginning?
First of all, congratulations, Rishik. I envy you that you're starting this journey now, because those 6 months were the most transformative portion of my life. So what momentum to go with? Initially, there are definitely things that we don't understand why it is being done a certain way. As with many other Isha Foundation programs or how they've been structured, it's not like everything is laid out in front of you. Okay, this is the reason we're doing XYZ, therefore you have to do it. It becomes so used to all the time doing things only after somebody explains to us, or knowing the motivation or a goal. But to be able to do it 100%, because decided to trust the process, simply giving in to what is needed to do at the time, doing it to your best, and just taking it one step at a time, even if you don't understand something, but just being able to be 100% involved, because that's needed out of you at that moment. I think that was a huge thing that saw me through from the very beginning, because as we finished the training, I was able to, and even now looking back, exactly why things were done a certain way, why it needed to be there at that time. It kind of unraveled itself along the way. Like you don't want all the surprises to be known right in the beginning, because then you will start mentally calculating everything. So I'm glad it was revealed, or it just opened up to me gradually in stages. But in the beginning, just being willing to do what it takes, give my 100%. I think that kind of took care of everything for me.
Also, I would say, Rishik, congratulations, yeah. And also, I would say just going there without any expectation, maybe you're listening to all these talks and you have seen so many videos, YouTube videos, and you have a certain expectation from the training. I would say, that was good for your information, but just going there with completely just like empty canvas would be the best way to step into this, and not counting days and 21 weeks, but just taking in one day at a time. That's the best way to approach this. Otherwise it may look like, okay, what have you got, initially it could be pretty challenging and so many things can be there, but just like no expectations and one day one day at a time could be the mantra to get started with this.
Right. Thank you.
Awesome. Thanks, Srividya and Madhubi. Thanks, Rushik, for your question. Shavik, you can unmute yourself and ask what you have to.
Namaskaram. Am I audible?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Namaskaram, Akkas and Annas. So I am sorry for the earlier, because the names were kind of similar, Rosik and Sovik. So
No,
I didn't
Sri. Yes.
Yeah. So I have two simple questions actually. Two questions, but very simple. The first one is, if one is willing to become a Hatha Yoga teacher, so how he or she needs to prepare himself or herself? Like, that is my first question. And the second one is, as we know, the fees here is very expensive. So if one is willing, really willing, but he or she cannot able to arrange the necessary fees, so is there any other way to become a Hatha Yoga teacher? So these are my questions. Thank you.
So So Vic, I'll come from actually my experience. Mine was one where I was just making enough to travel and go on my next adventure, and when this came up, it became very important for me to do it, and you'd be surprised with that willingness, what is possible when you set out on that journey. I've heard of many people in Hatha Yoga training that once they make the decision to do this, and they're committed, what life opens up. So I would say that's also possible, and it's not necessarily that everyone needs to teach, but if that is there, yeah, you can definitely just work towards it and make that intention. That really helped for me, honestly, in my journey. I didn't know where it was going to come from, and if you speak to other teachers, they might say the same thing. One more thing is, it's not needed that everybody teach. Also, like, that person can also use these practices and do these practices and learn the practices, and through that, you can still have such a grand experience. So not always to get caught up in the teaching per se. I mean, honestly, it's been great for me as a journey. It allows, it's a sadhana in itself, the teaching. It's another layer. But, from my experience, it's a wonderful experience. And, if someone is willing, there's nothing stopping that person from, making it happen. No matter where they're from or their economic background. I'm a living example of that, if anybody wants to add.
Thanks for sharing, Ashton. I have spoken to many other trainees as well who all shared similar stories that they set their intentions, they started preparing maybe after a year, 2 years, or 3 years, but what is needed to make it happen, the training happened for them, just fell into place. And to us, to just commonly describe it within quotes, it sounds like a miracle, but definitely once you're working towards it, it seems to happen for many people. Like, it seems to just I would say manifest. So in terms of preparation, if you haven't done the inner engineering program and the Shambhavi Kriya, that would be the first step. And then taking up a Hatha Yoga practice, intensifying that, and also the volunteering for different programs. If you wish to do that, that would be another support. So these are ways in which you can prepare the body and mind to be settled into the program once you.
Okay, thank you so much for it was really helpful. That was what I was looking for. The thing that you said, that it's going to happen if anyone is willing, that is important. And I'm already initiated. I also want to add something. That is, I'm already initiated into Sambhavi, and also this year I am participating in Sadhana Pada. So thank you so much again.
Oh, that's wonderful. Sadhana Pada is, if it would have been around before Hatha Yoga, I would have also taken that awesome opportunity. So great way to spend 7 months.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks, Shavik. Thanks for your question and also your sharing. We'll take the next question. Arun, you can unmute yourself and please go ahead.
Namaskaram to all. This is Arun. Here I have a query. I mean, I have taken this Angamardana program and Srividhya program. I think it should be in 2014, and I've been practicing for a while, and after that just I didn't do it. Like, what's the possibility of me refreshing the things online? Because like Madhubi was talking about, she has offered certain programs online due to this lockdown some time ago. So just like to know what's the possibility of refreshing myself with these practices again.
Okay, Namaskaram Arun. So yeah, for you to go through a refresher course, you'll have to contact your nearest Hatha Yoga teacher, and you can, on a teacher finder, you can find the teacher closest to you, and you can talk to them and see how it can work for you in these times if they are open to do it. Any of the practices, we teach the practices online which can be taught online. So these are Angamardana, Surya Kriya and Yogasanas. These are not the practices that can be offered online, keeping in mind the sanctity of the practice, and many other dimensions are there to it. So yes, simply answering your question, you have to connect with your nearest Hatha Yoga teacher close to you. You can connect to us if you're not finding any, and we'll see what we can do to support that.
Yeah, Arun, just to follow up with what Madhavi said, you can reach out to any of the three of them or even any of us and we'll try to, kind of direct you towards the person closest to you.
Yeah, sure. Thank you. Thanks, Arun. We have Anurag next. Anurag, if you'd like to unmute yourself. Yeah, please go ahead.
Hello, am I audible?
Yes.
Yeah. So I wanted to ask that if Hatha Yoga is coming from certain lineage of Adi Yogi and Agastya Muni, so why in Isha Sadhguru adds his name as designed by Sadhguru? Thank you.
Would anyone want to speak?
Okay. So yes, when he adds, it's the reason why it is coming from Adi Yogi is because Sadhguru has mentioned it is coming from Adi Yogi. So definitely, because now, so everything that he talks about, he says the source is Adi Yogi. He is the source, but bringing it, revitalizing it in today's time, Sadhguru has done that. So he has designed the tools for today, without keeping the purity, obviously the everything just the way it was, but he always mentions the source for everything has been Adi Yogi. It's just that the face of it now for everything is Sadhguru in front of us, and that's how we say, all these tools are designed by Sadhguru. He's bringing it into life, he's bringing it into action, he's bringing into everyone's life. So yes, am I Srividya? Ashton, would you like to add something to this?
Yes. So, like Madhubi mentioned, Sadhguru has always acknowledged that these have been in the tradition, and but if you look at the training program itself, right, every minute aspect of the program, it makes a difference to how you imbibe the practice and how you grow and blossom as a teacher. It takes enormous amount of attention, resources, people, volunteer resources, and other resources to make it happen. So to bring all of it together in a consecrated space and structure it the way it is for your transformation of the body and mind to happen, all of this has been designed, by Sadhguru. Like every batch, every teacher, their progress, beginning from the diet to the materials, the way it is offered, and even afterwards when we finish and go out to train, but when we come back to the school or connect to the school and have questions, his guidance and his energy his imprint is there in every little thing that we do. Even in the classroom, when we sit there as teachers, we know very clearly that we're offering these practices, but it doesn't come from us. There's a certain energy which makes the class and the practice and the space what it is. So I guess we just have to see it in that perspective. He has always been very clear that these practices, these have been there in the tradition, in the lineage, in the system. But yeah.
Thanks, Madhvi and Srividya.
Yeah, thank you.
Good.
Namaskaram.
Namaskaram, Anurag. Thanks for your question. Divyadeep, you can unmute yourself and go ahead.
Namaskaram, everyone. First of all, am I audible?
Yes, you are.
Okay, thank you. So thank you for providing me this opportunity to ask the question. And I have two questions actually. First one is that since the Hatha Yoga teachers learn so many practices, and since the ashram follows a certain pace and a certain discipline, I'm sure many of you, when you come back after the training, when you come back to the society, the same pace is not there at all. And so how do you manage the practices that you were mentioning, around 6 to 7 hours of yoga you start doing from day one when you're in the ashram in the training? But once you come out, then I'm sure it's not like that. You have to see many other aspects also. And this is the first question. Second question is, in one of the Mystic Eye episodes I saw on YouTube, Sadhguru was mentioning about Hatha Yoga actually, the distortions that have taken place. And he said that when he decided to impart the spiritual process, he had his other way of doing things, and only after quite a lot of time he started seeing the distortions in Hatha Yoga. So he started preparing teachers and opened up the Hatha Yoga school. So the physical body, he also talks about that our physical self is never really safe. So how did you really, when you question yourself, when you were making this decision that okay, you have to impart this as a process and also make it a living, because anytime any injury can happen, and we can be, barred from doing the practices. So it can also hinder your basic survival aspect. So how did you overcome that decision? Thank you so much.
So so to answer the first part of your question, I hear a lot of echo. Is it okay now?
Divya,
Yes,
if you could unmute yourself.
Okay. So to answer the first part of the question, how do you retain the intensity once you finish the program? This is something the school is very aware of. And when you finish the training, they actually give you a certain structure on how to keep up the sadhana at home, how to do it. They're very aware that you cannot devote 7 hours to do Hatha Yoga every day. If someone wishes to take that path, that's completely fine. But for most of us, we've gone out and, we need to do other things, including planning, structuring classes, marketing our programs, staying in touch with participants. There's a lot of other things that you take on once you leave the program. So the 21 weeks are like a strong foundation on which you build your career as a teacher and your path as a teacher, your own sadhana later on. So they give you a recommended structure on how you can stay in touch with the practices, keep them alive. So even as a teacher, you maintain a personal sadhana on a daily basis. So that is given to you at the end of the program. And also from many teachers, the experience has also been just doing the sadhana, even the minimum recommended sadhana on a daily basis. It gives you the necessary energy, the support to maybe reduce your sleep quota, where you feel much more energetic. You feel like you can handle many more things. So it frees up more time to do all of these activities. So that's the first part of the question. The second part about the distortions and how do we handle when people are we concerned about it? Honestly, this was there for me. Like, okay, when I'm teaching Hatha Yoga, what if somebody injures themselves and will I be responsible? So going into the program, I did have these thoughts, but that's where I think also Isha Hatha Yoga is set apart, because the way the classes are, we do not touch the participants. The instructions are given, and it is also reiterated that the demonstration, the practices are in a certain way, but from wherever you are, your body is, you take the next step and the next step. You do it little by little. You just stretch a little bit more than what you're able to. See, only when somebody is touching you, pushing you from the outside, and I've seen this in many, many, many yoga photos and studios and other programs where people offer, where you see the poster itself is somebody's trying to touch your spine and bend you and push you into it. So that's something that's definitely not allowed when we teach Isha practices. And so you know your body, you know your limitations. From there, you take the next step and the next step in a gentle manner. So Sadhguru, in fact, even says when you do classical yoga, there is no room for injury. He says this. And keeping that in mind is how the training and the classroom and the teaching is structured. So I definitely feel safe and I feel equipped enough to offer it the way it has been offered.
It's fantastic. Before we move to the next question, if I can just add on to what Divyadeep asked, and any of you can answer this. So if I were to take up a Hatha Yoga class, would it be different if I took up the class with Ashton or Srividya or Madhubi, or how do you maintain this the integrity of the teaching process, so to speak?
So we all have been, Srividya, you want to take that?
No, go ahead.
Yeah. So we all have been through the same course, same training, 1750 hours of teachers training, and the way it was imparted to us, again, it was the same way it is imparted to a previous batch, and the way it will be offered to everyone in front of us will also remain the same. So the integrity is something that is maintained wherever you learn, from whosoever you learn. Yes, definitely, depending on person to person, on individual teacher, there's a different touch that is naturally that comes with it. Yesterday Srividya was saying, just the flair and the personality persona of the person can impact, but it's just that natural thing, that natural touch that comes. But apart from that, everything, the whole practice, the way it is offered, the structure, everything remains the same.
And the beauty of being a Isha Hatha teacher personally, the way the training is and how we've been trained to offer this. When you sit in a classroom, you learn to keep aside your body, your mind, and your likes, dislikes, your preferences. None of that matter in a classroom. You are very aware. When you're going into the classroom, that it is not about you, and it is about something that's bigger than yourself that's happening in the space. And as a teacher, it's even been my experience that those who learned the practice from me, I've seen some of them grow faster, bloom faster, like take many steps forward in how they break their limitations. And it's been fantastic. Like things that took me a longer time, people simply grow in leaps and bounds, depending on how intensely they're doing their practices. So it's you're very aware that this is not about you. So how this connects back to what Partha is asking is, Sadhguru has structured the training in such a way that whatever your limitations are as a person, whatever different personalities and characters you have, the class, the practice, the how tight it is, how meticulously it is designed, it's beyond all of this. So no matter where you learn it from, who you learn it from, you will only see the practices being offered as long as you're certified by the school to offer it. They've gone through the rigor of it. You will know that the quality and the methodology, even the details of the practice is going to be exactly the same, and that's only when the school certifies you to do.
Lovely.
Can I just add to this? Hi, namaskaram everyone.
Yes, please, Maimaka.
Namaskaram.
She's also a Hatha Yoga teacher from Isha.
Okay. So adding to that, what Srividya Akka said. So whenever we go through the training process or any process like that in the school, which there is always a support system. So the whole process is about killing the personality which we come with. So at the end of the training, the whole thing is about keeping ourselves aside. So that I observed when I took class for my parents. So just before the class, I was a daughter for them. But as soon as I sat there, it just vanished from my mind and I guess from their mind. So yeah, so as soon as the class starts, there is no no relative there, no friend there. You are not Mahima anymore, or someone there with an identity. You are just sitting there like a pipe, and the class is just flowing, and it's just like you brought something from Sadhguru and you are just giving away to the person in front of you. So it's very similar. If yeah, the personal touch is there, but again, regarding the class and the instructions and the way it is taught, it is the same everywhere, wherever you learn from. Thank you.
Wonderful. You have a question, Maimaka?
No. I'm just there listening to all of you.
Thank you.
Just wanted to add something fun to that. So some of my classes initially, my husband used to be a demo person. I trained him to demonstrate the practices as I taught it, and so he's worked with me as a demo person. We volunteered together for classes, and he's been a participant when I've taught something. And of course, outside of that, as a couple, when we are handling everyday situations, we work together. So he sometimes says, "I don't know whether to look at you as a teacher or as a volunteer, as a as a wife, or what." Because I think that's the beauty of it. That when I finish the class and come, just the way how we carry ourselves, and just it's not something we're putting on, because you've learned to set yourself aside. Even when he sees me after class, he doesn't see me as a wife. He just sees me as a teacher. Just like how Mahima mentioned, like she feels like she's just there as a teacher and not any other relative. And that's also felt by the other person. My husband, when I finish a class, he says, "Well, I just cannot relate to you as the same person who's as a wife. It takes some time for me to come out of that and just kind of engage in my regular activities. You just become fluid in doing these things, I would say. So in the classroom, when you're there, I'm not this person. I'm not a wife. I'm not a daughter. All of these roles are just set aside. I'm simply there to be a conduit for something that's bigger than me. And when every teacher does that in every place, you can see that the sanctity of the practice is going to be maintained."
That's such a beautiful way to be. Yeah. Tamanna, you can go ahead and unmute yourself and ask your question.
Thank you so much. Namaskaram.
So my question is, how does age affect taking in you deciding to take up teacher training path? Yeah, for teacher training. I am 38 today, so like is age a barrier? Your body. Thank you so much. Your conversation is the best birthday gift for me because all that I've been thinking from last 1 month is Hatha Yoga teacher training program, and what a better like there couldn't have been a better day than this.
Wow. Well,
So
great.
what I wanted, so I just wanted to know if age restricts your decision or your practices in any way, because definitely physically your flexibility goes down. Then and how do you prepare? Like if I wish to take up teacher training program next year, there is a good 1 year. How do you prepare? How do I prepare myself for that part?
Happy birthday,
And then, thank you so much. Thank you so much. And one last question is no, not last questions. There are two more questions. Can I ask them now, or should I wait until the first two questions are answered?
Yeah, give us this one. So 38 is nothing. There was someone who I heard in the 2016 batch. She was 72 years old, and she something like 70 or 72 years old. And at the beginning, she was sitting on a lot of cushions. This was, of course, before you had to, know Shambhavi and Hatha Yoga beforehand. So at 38, you're like half her age. So you should be okay. But that's why they want you to learn Shambhavi and, some Hatha Yoga practice. Of course, learning them, I mean, you'll be learning all of them in the training, of course, to teach. So, for yourself, experiencing them beforehand. And you do them every day. So that's something to keep in mind too when you do them. There is a certain energy in the space and a certain encouragement that happens being in a group of people that are all in it together that I feel really helps keep you on. There's no other culture of mom. I can hear some kids in the background. All these things. So like other teachers have shared, you're there as just someone to learn, forgetting about all these other things. So you're in this environment that's really rewarding and it all geared in that single direction. So yeah, definitely you want to prepare because you don't want to spend the first few weeks being in more pain than you need to be. So you can definitely even start now. If there's a Hatha Yoga teacher in your area or whatever you've learned, I'm sure happily we can, if that's something you're gearing towards, we can help set up a program, in some way that you can follow with your schedule.
So when I went through the training in 2013, there were a couple of older gentlemen who took the class. When I say older, one person was in the 60s and there was one person in the early 70s, I think. So they were not Indians, they'd come from outside the country. So you can imagine, like a completely different culture, just traveling halfway across the globe at that age. But it didn't. When we looked at them, they were just, fellow trainees with us. I don't think any of us thought of them as, their age didn't define who they were or how they could go through the practice. And so gracefully they all went through it, and they've been teaching after that. So definitely age is not a restriction, like a hard-on, restriction, like this is like that. But of course, if you have specific health situations during the interview, when you apply for the school, it's important to mention everything, and they will of course make a decision on a case-by-case basis. But in terms of how to prepare yourself for the training, I would say food also plays an important role. If you can increase the amount of raw food that you take, it definitely makes a difference to how flexible you are in the body and how the practices you're able to establish them. So decreasing the quantity of, like say, cooked food and like very gradually increasing more alive foods, pranic foods. These would be supportive as you establish a practice routine and prepare for the program. Thank you so much. That was a wonderful insight. And I had few more questions, like how do you separate fake teachers, like someone who's learned some practices from you, say Angamardana or Yogasanas, and taking it through to others just on a purely commercial basis. How do you deal with that?
And do you need a team to work, or is possible to do the classes individually? Like, do you need a group of 2, 3 teachers together to work out things, or it's possible to conduct the classes post training on your own? Thank you. These are my other questions.
Happy birthday, Tamanna. So answering your first question, so how to identify fake teachers? All the teachers who are certified by Isha Hatha Yoga are on the Isha Hatha Yoga website, Isha website, and in the finder you can find them. If they are certified, they will be there. So if you're confused or if you're not sure, you can always look up and check. Yes, there is always a team who is making sure people are not teaching the practices they have learned from others and just not teaching them randomly. There's a team who's doing that, but always there are cases like this, and we are seeing what else can we how this can be handled. Coming to the second question, these classes can be pretty much taken independently, individually. You can do it. You can, do the marketing, conduct the session, and answer their questions. Post the session. Everything can be done. But if you team up with other teachers or volunteers, it definitely makes your task, the whole thing process very easy and smooth. So both the things are possible. I have been through both the situation where when I was teaching alone, I was doing everything just by myself, setting up the room and conducting the session, making sure everything goes well. And now that I have another teacher of Ashton as my partner, is my husband and also Hatha Yoga teacher, so it makes it very easy to set up the room and just during the session if anything is needed when he's taking classes. So it just works. It definitely works when if you have other teachers, if you can team up. Also it helps in spreading. If you are doing it in a big way, more teachers, more room, more participants, it definitely makes it easy. So whichever way you do, yeah, nothing is wrong. You can try it out for yourself once you finish the training, and see, try it out independently, try it with other teachers. It's always fun to collaborate and do it also. Yeah.
And the school equips you to be able to teach classes alone also. We have teachers all over the world, and I'm not just saying this as as an exaggeration, but I wouldn't be surprised if the total number of count of the countries would be 50 plus at this point, 50 plus, 60 plus countries that may be like in every continent. I don't think in Antarctica though, but like every like so many places, and they may be the only teacher in the entire country, but still they're able to offer the classes. And the school is also supporting with translations into different languages, so the teachers can offer it wherever they are. So many of these have been put in place, so you don't have to worry about if I don't have more teachers in my area, how do I do this alone. You will be equipped.
Thanks. Thanks, Tamanna, for your question. Is there something else that you wanted to clarify with? Please go ahead.
No, I just want to thank you all. Thank you all. Thank you so much.
Happy birthday, Tamanna.
Thank you. Thank you.
We'll take the next question from the account that says Sadhguru Soulstone. Please introduce yourself and ask. Go ahead.
Namaskaram, Anna. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, Anna. My name is Mayur. I actually have an unofficial channel, YouTube channel of Sadhguru, where I provide Sadhguru's content. And I'm right now in class 12, and I'm aspiring to become a Hatha Yoga teacher. But my parents want me to get a degree first. I've tried convincing them, explaining them that I have no requirement of degree, but it didn't work. So there is a lot of drama which is happening in my house about my career in yoga. What would you do? I just want to know your opinion. What would you do if you were in my position? Get a degree first and work sometime, then become a teacher or something else. Thank you.
What's your degree?
No, like right now I'm in class 12. So after class 12, we had to take some degree. So I was planning to take. I still did not decide which degree to take, but as of now, I must do some degree.
Right. Yeah, maybe other people who have, had this experience of parents, not being so supportive, but I've heard this even from people who have, Isha parents who want their child, to get a degree. Sometimes, it's, I mean, this is probably the more responsible response that I'll give you, but also I think it's practical, and sometimes, to see like what's in your current situations. Even Sadhguru himself ended up, through his mother. Have you heard that story of how he wasn't going to go to university and his dad forcing him, but his mother's tears convinced him to get a degree? Have you heard that story?
It's almost the same situation, and even here.
Okay, okay. So in some ways, he, has had he experienced this himself, even Sadhguru. So, if he's, able to do it, I think sometimes, going through these situations, it's not separate is the thing that I think we all need to realize. And in me coming from a guy who's ready to drop anything and jump in head first into these types of things, I do see that practical approach too. Is Sadhguru is never far away from you, anyways. I think if you're taking any of the classes, you close your eyes, there's a possibility that's always there. And in your school, you can always be involved. I think that's honestly a beautiful thing, and I wish more students knew this. But you can be an undercover agent or a more outward agent of Sadhguru in your own way. I know you started a channel, so I mean you can always feed into that more, and maybe start a club where you invite even Isha Hatha Yoga teachers there to teach, or there's possibilities of you yourself taking up a training where you can teach some classes. Actually, there's Sadhguru's opened up these this, I think it's called Isha Viras, where you can teach some classes. So you could do that for the students in your school and inspire them. You never know what it is, but yeah, sometimes managing these home situations, I can only imagine that you can still be in touch with it in major ways. And if you want to talk about this offline after, I'd be happy to understand where you're coming from and hear about your journey more, and encourage and find other avenues for you to feel in touch with this desire while still maintaining other family and societal expectations.
Which brings me to another question: is there a minimum cutoff age for somebody to register for the program?
I think it's 18.
Yeah, I think the youngest I've seen is 18, even in my batch. To answer your question, this is a very personal decision because it also depends on family situations. Sadhguru himself will not. In most cases, when people ask, "Oh, should I come to the ashram? Should I be here? Should I do that? Should I do this?" He has, in most times, he says, "Okay, I've given you the tools to look within yourself to see what is appropriate for the situation. What is the best. Whatever action you take, you're willing to face the consequences of that. That's how life works. So." This is again a very very personal and a huge decision. That's something that you need to sit, maybe spend a little bit more time on sadhana, maybe take a week off and just look at it from within. But I would say don't, like Ashton mentioned, it's not like if you do this, oh, this is definitely the only better thing to do, and that is not good. Again, Sadhguru says don't, and it's true for me, not just because he says, I've also looked at it in my own life. You don't have to see one path as being superior to another and start looking at one as less important, or it's not about looking at life like that. Whatever you do, you're doing it 100% with involvement. And again, like Ashton said, you could be an ambassador of how to live completely joyfully and balance many different things. That kind of role model is something youth of today definitely need. It's unfortunate that in even many colleges, even in India, people are taking to substances or people are taking to other things. So without even having to preach about it or talk about it, or it's just simply living very beautifully, joyfully, blossoming within yourself. You could be a role model for many people while pursuing a degree. That's something that you enjoy, like a middle path between what your parents want and what you want. So that's one way to look at it also. Like, just consider all these different options and then make a decision based on what's appropriate for you.
Yeah, I have one more. Oh, sorry. Yeah, I have one more example of something that happened. What's your name?
My name is Mayur.
Mayur. Okay, hi Mayur. So I have another example of someone who I knew back in Toronto. She was, a student your age about, and her mom and her had just discovered Sadhguru, and she was in, I think, her first year of university in geology and studying environmental science. And she's like, "Oh my God, I just want to go to the ashram and be an inner engineering teacher. Like, what's the point of learning all this environmental science and geology?" And just as just as she was finishing up Sadhguru, he unlocked that Sadhguru for Conscious Planet, and now she's full-time volunteer with the Calvary Calling Rally for Rivers. So you never know the path that you're on and how it can again interlink. So yeah, she got her degree, and it ended up being worthwhile for her in what she's doing now with the foundation.
And also, a couple of weeks back, I think there was a conversation with some of the students from Samskriti school, and one of the students is a Hatha Yoga teacher now, and he's doing his bachelor's at University of Texas, Austin. He's studying, I think, computer science, and he has a yoga club where he's teaching yoga. So, like Ashton and Srividya said, there's so many avenues and opportunities to do so many things in college while you're getting a degree. It doesn't have to be this or that.
I hope that discussion helped you, Mayur, and you can certainly reach out to any one of them offline as well to take it forward again if you wish to.
Yes, thank you, Anna. Thank you, all the teachers.
Thanks, Mayur. We'll take the last question from Anurag. Anurag, please go ahead.
Namaskaram again. I saw in the Hatha Yoga videos where teacher trainees are being taken to the temples in the South India, and they are being taught certain methods that to experience the energy in the space. So when I sat in certain temples, I was not able to feel. So what can be done about that? How can we feel that? Thank you.
So speaking from personal experience, Anurag, I've enjoyed like taking solo trips to small temples. Even outside the training, I have taken I just made the choice to go to different temples and experience that space. So in certain spaces, I have felt the energy. Certain other spaces, I could not. So I've always wondered, is it just because I'm not receptive, or is it because sometimes Sadhguru says along the way the structures have been changed without people understanding the significance of why it needs to be a certain way. He's seen that at much bigger temples. So it's possible in the smaller ones, somebody took the initiative to change certain things, but that kind of corrupted like how people are able to receive. I don't know, like it's beyond me to understand those aspects, but even in my experience, in certain places it's been like that, certain places it's not. And also receptivity on different days, how I've noticed a difference when I go on an Amavasya day, like certain spaces just reverberate. On certain other days I am so engaged in the mental process maybe that the ability to perceive and receive that same reverberating space is lowered because of how I've kept myself. So all of these things also happen in different combinations at different times. So in my experience though, sadhana was all that made a difference. Like I took my Samyama program, I attended the program. It's one of the higher, the advanced programs that Sadhguru offers. So it needs intense preparation, many like weeks of committed sadhana and diet, and to be in that energy situation. So I did that like right after college, and I remember until then I was doing sadhana, I was doing shunya, I was doing hatha yoga and all, but that 60 days or 90 days of preparation I put in. And when I went to the ashram and I sat in Dhyanalinga like a day before the program even began, that day when I sat there, I like that day it felt like I knew what shunya was, what emptiness was, what nothingness was. It was such an intense experience, like I didn't exist in that space. It was just a complete emptiness that I felt. And that was because I had put in 90 days of intense preparation. Again, it was not about me, but just how my system had been prepared by those powerful practices. So it took that level of fine-tuning my system to be able to even experience Jnanalinga and all of its. I still don't know if I know all of its glory. I don't think I do. It was barely just a scratch, but even that was so powerful. So what I'm trying to say is, if you're not able to experience certain spaces, it could be many different factors: the space itself, or your receptivity, or just how your mental chatter is on a certain day. There are many factors that go into it. But one sure short thing that I don't know is. Establishing my sadhana, doing more of it, and keeping myself in a certain way by eating light and all of that kind of heightens how receptive I am, not just in consecrated spaces, but in so many other situations.
Yeah, it's a good thing to just maybe not even, yeah, like she said, each day, each way that you are is different. I mean, like I'm a probably harder nut than most. So yeah, there's people that are having such wild experiences, and I'm just sitting there like, okay, with my eyes closed, just thinking like, okay, maybe something will happen. But yeah, I would say, like she said, focus on the sadhana, focus on what you can do to fine tune your body. Like we said before, it's a tool, it's an instrument. So the more you take care of it, the more you sharpen it, the more it'll work for you. And you just never know. The experiences as they come, you really don't know how it can happen for you. So yeah, maybe use that as motivation if you feel, oh, I'm not experiencing it, but we really don't know what that means for each individual person. Some people who have never done sadhana just sit in a space and just explode with with feeling it completely. So I'm one of those harder nuts who have a harder time feeling things. So sadhana for me has really helped loosen up myself and experience places much better than I ever could have imagined.
Fantastic sharing, both of you. Thanks, Anurag, also for your question. I think we are at the end of the question session from the audience, and it's been quite a revelation, for some of these things that I've never heard about how the program happens, how the transformation of the teachers happens, so on and so forth. Partha, would you have anything to add on at this point?
Nothing in particular, Pawan. I think it is a fantastic set of questions and interactions. We're actually half an hour beyond stipulated time. We'd love to do more of these sessions. For those who couldn't ask questions and wanted to, we'd definitely try to bring back more Hatha teachers, if not just these three. So yeah, I think we can bring this session to a close, and thank you so much, Madhubi, Srividya and Ashton. It was lovely to have you all here. Thank you so much for giving us your time and for being so articulate and being so patient with all of us. Thank you. Pooja, Pawan, do you want to say something?
Yes, absolutely. I would like to thank everyone for their time, and it was very insightful. Thank you, Madhubi, Srividya, Ashton. It was lovely talking to you guys today. Thank you everyone for joining us and listening in.
Yeah, thank you all of you for being so patient, and thank you Partha, Pawan, Pooja for giving this platform. It's wonderful, with these interactions, so many things have come alive for us in the whole teacher training process, and it's pretty alive, and we had to go back and jog our memory. It's just lovely. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Namaskaram, everyone.
Yeah, thank you. One more thing, me and Madhvi, if you guys are interested or you have family that wants to do this, and I know lockdown has been the way that it was, but me and Madhvi have a program happening on the 1st of every month, one starting the beginning of August. We just finished our last one. It's an 11-day online program. You can definitely message us more. Madhvi's DM on Instagram, yogam.life. Definitely check that out. You can message us. It's been something that people have been able to introduce their family to, and even meditators who want just some guided practices along with them. Definitely come check it out and ask us for more information. It's a really great 11-day experience for people who are interested in yoga, or just in general wanting to be with a teacher's guidance for 11 days.
Thank you, Ashton. Yeah, please reach out to both Madhubi and Ashton. They have classes going on, and you can reach out to them not just for their online program, but also to see if they have any classes in person, or if you'd like to be directed to any Hatha Yoga teacher close by to where you live.
Yeah, if you have family in the US, whichever time zone, or if you yourself are in the US and want to take classes in the US time zone, please feel free to reach out to me.
Definitely.